Okay, I'm using Adobe Premiere to create a new project. And this is just going to save the Premiere project file, so I have to make a folder. And I need to give the project a name. And I can leave the rest of this as is. So you have 4 basic areas and a tool panel. This area is to look at effects controls and source clips, the most important of which is effect controls. The program is your viewer. That's what you're going to end up with the final project. This bottom left quadrant is for your source files and folders and clips and things that you're going to be using. And here is the timeline where you're going to be doing your editing. So I'm going to go to File and I'm going to Import. And let's go ahead and I'm going to put some movies into my movie folder. So here are a couple of Zoom movies. And the window wants to move for some reason. There we go. Okay, and I'll shift select both of these files and choose import. Now I'm going to drag them into the timeline. Now when you just drag into the timeline like that, the movie that you're making, the program, will be the same size and frame rate as whatever clip you drag in. So that can be important. In the timeline, you have the ability to scale and see different lengths of video and go into different positions. So if I make this large enough, I can see all of my content. You can see there's 2 clips, a long one and a short one. Let's play a little bit of that back. So here I'm going to go into where I want to start the video. It starts with some black. That's okay. Play a little bit of it. And when you go like this on the timeline, it's called scrubbing. So let's see if there's a portion I want to cut out. The look of your entire model. So I'm not going to go into the settings in detail, but I think I try a few different settings. Maybe I'll cut out some of that. Nothing. Okay, so I said nothing.
Remesh. So, okay, that looks pretty cool. What's happening is it's creating a lot of detail and it's kind of fixing some errors, but too many polygons, right? The problem with that is I wouldn't be able to smooth it. It basically larger collapse threshold. Creating a lot.
These are frame by frame controls. So I can do every single frame and get it to cut just where I want. And if you're having trouble scrubbing accurately, you can zoom in. And it will zoom based on the point of the playback head. This is the playback head. That's where you are in time. And you're always looking to the clip to the right or the frame to the right. Okay, so I'm going to cut here with the razor tool.
Okay, then we have two entire model. So I'm not going to go into the settings in detail, but just experiment and I'm going to try a larger color. And what that is, I wouldn't be able to smooth it. It basically is taking the shape of what I already have. So I'm going to try it again.
So I'm going to cut it right there. And now I can get rid of this whole section by hitting delete. I selected it first. This tool right here just selects. Let's go back to this clip. I think I want a little more of that.
Okay, then we have two new features under Mesh, Remesh and Retopologize. So basically all I really want to say to you is that you can try playing around with these and see if it can kind of fix the look of your entire model. So I'm not going to go into the settings in detail, but just experiment. And we have a slider bar here, see?
So now this tool right here will select all clips forward. So it's getting zoom_1, which is the next clip as well. Watch what happens when I zoom out. It's getting that clip as well. And that's important because what I want to do is I want to close this gap. Also, you'll snap to the playback head whenever you move near the playback head. So if I want to make sure it snaps to the edge of this clip, then I'm going to move it like that. And snapping is a function that's right here. So it'll probably be a little glitchy, but let's take a look at it.
Topologize. So basically all I really want to say to you is that you can try playing around with the
Let's get it a little closer.
Model. So I'm not going to go into the settings in detail, but just experiment. And we have a slider bar here, see? Mesh, remesh.
Okay, so a little bit of that I don't need. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm just going to resize the clip there. Then I have to be careful to select all clips forward and move it. We'll see what that looks like.
You have a slider bar here, see? And I'm going to try a...
Looks like the screen just jumped a little bit, but that's okay.
Slider bar here, see? And I'm going to...
Yeah, so I pulled that little section out that I didn't want. So you can keep on editing and move things around. You can add in color mats. There's lots of fun things. Oops, lots of fun things to choose. in the menus. If you ever need to change frame rate or size, you can do that in sequence settings. You can import. You can export when you're all done. I'll show you that in a moment. And what else? So when you go to sequence, you can render certain selections. So you don't have to re-render everything all the time. And it's possible to go to new and add in things like captions and titles, which are all text, color bars, plain black video, transparency video. There's all things that can be generated from within the program. And basic selection tools, selecting back and forth, razor, a pen tool for changing volume levels and other things, text tool, a grabber tool. Pretty cool. Let me just show you effects. So right here on the bottom left, we go to effects, and we have audio effects and video effects. And we also have transitions, which means from one thing to another. In the case of audio, you can crossfade, so you hear one sound coming in at the same time as one sound coming out. They overlap. And the same with video. You can have a wipe where the video goes from one video to the other with a horizontal line across the screen, or you can do fades. And you also have video effects. So here, let's look at a video transition like dissolve. To put dissolve, I'm going to just put it right on the space in between these two clips. And let's take a look at that. When you zoom in, you'll see that there's this little bit called cross dissolve. And see what that looks like? It just fades. The default transition time is 1 second. 1 second.
Slider bar here, see? And I'm going to try.
And I can do that as well for this cut. If you hold down the shift key, it'll snap to a point where two clips meet as long as you're close. So I want to put a cross dissolve, which is a video transition there as well. It says insufficient media. This transition will contain repeated frames. That's because I didn't move my head and tail in a little bit for the overlap. Let's do that. So I need to move this in by at least a second, and this by a second. Then I move them together. This was my last clip. That's why I didn't use the forward select. And let's try the cross dissolve now. Okay, looks like it's a little short on this side. Maybe that's because of my playback head was too close. No, it was just because that's how much media there was. Let's see what it looks like. Pretty good. You know, I think I don't need a lot of this right here. I think I want it just to go to the ends. Yeah. Okay, when you resize the clip to create and then close a gap, you need to do your transitions over again. Sometimes you can't see them unless you zoom in.
When I hold the spacebar, I can see UV, so that's very helpful. So I've just clicked on UV automatic. And let's go to object mode.
Okay, so I'm moving into Mudbox. I think I missed that whole section in terms of recording. Good enough. So I'm not going to get very far at all into filters, but you can select video and you can put video effects like blurring. I'll just show you that one. I'm going to use a Gaussian blur and I drop it right onto the clip. And then in effect controls, I'll see Gaussian blur. And this turns it on and off. But the blurriness is set to 0, so we're not seeing it. Watch what happens when I have the playback head over the clip that I'm trying to adjust. That's important. And I increase the blurriness. So you can do that with text, and you can fade it in while you're doing it. That would look pretty cool. I don't want this effect, so I'm going to select it and hit delete on my keyboard. You also have audio effects like reverb, delay, compression, see what some of those are. Algorithmic reverb, a vocal remover, that's interesting. There's really cool effects in this program. For example, you can stabilize video. If you have shaky video, you'll lose a little around the edges, but it works. Okay, to render out your video, you go to File, Export, Media. It's actually calling up other software, so it might take a moment. Let's try that again. What happened? Doesn't want to work. Okay, the main thing is you want to choose a base preset. So you're going to go to H.264, which is an MP4 file and codec, MP4. And then from H.264, not the one for Blu-ray, just the one that says H.264, you're going to choose a preset for YouTube based on the size of your video, which is typically going to be HD widescreen. And I usually like to go with 720 or 1080 as far as the vertical resolution. And then you find a location and you export it, and it'll take some time to render. I'm going to see if I can get that started, but right now it seems to be having a little bit of an issue. Okay, one thing that you have to do is, I think the problem was I didn't click on the timeline. It's good that I didn't do that because I need to remind you about that. In order to export from the timeline, you need to click on it once to get that blue outline. Otherwise, you can actually export clips as different formats. So that's why they allow you to export from different places. I want to export the timeline. So I have a feeling now it will work. Let's see. Export media. Yeah, the file menu is blue, so it's coming up. So this is actually the same as Media Encoder. And here's my output. I'm going to choose to do it into my work folder, that folder that I was using. So this movie, and I'll call it Mudbox Class. And today's date was April 1st, I believe. So maybe I'll just put the date in there. And you want to end in an extension. You'll notice that I had hide extension on, MP4. And the format is H.264. That's what you want. There's other formats in here, but this is the one you should use. And out of the preset, I'm going to choose a YouTube preset. So it's going to be out of view of your screen, but I'm going and scrolling all the way to the bottom, and I'm choosing YouTube. And in this case, I probably will get gray bars on the sides at its default, but I think that's okay. I need you to be able to read the menus. So I'm going to go with 1080. See I said gray bars, but they're black. That's because all YouTube is widescreen. So there are ways to stretch it out and crop it. I'm not sure I'm going to get into those. Okay, my window's a little on the small side to be seeing all this stuff. Yeah, let's see. Okay, I made my window a little larger so you can see, but we have some options in here. So I can actually change the size. YouTube's probably going to add the black back in, but let's see what happens when I do that. Yeah, it's linking this. So let's unlink that. You don't need to do any of this. You just pick, for your videos, you just pick YouTube 1080. That's about it. So let's see, 1400, does that work? No, that's a little too small. Again, this is nothing you'll have to do. Almost. I'm just going to go like that. Okay, you can leave most of these settings the way they are. Square pixels is normal. The frame rate is whatever Zoom was. Normally it'll be 30 frames per second, but Zoom is working at 25, so that's okay. And I do have hardware encoding. Your systems does not support, okay. Well, hardware coding is much faster, but mine doesn't support it. Leave this profile on high level 4.2, that's normal. You don't really have to make many changes at all. All this is fine. So what you're doing again is file, you're selecting the timeline, file, export media. You're choosing format H.264, preset YouTube. And again, just to look at that, get the word accurately. You will be choosing YouTube 1080 Full HD. That's the one for you. And give it a name. Just click on this where it says output name, and you're going to basically tell it where you want to save it and what the name is going to be. Let me resize this window so you can see the export button. By the way, you have a Q button so you can get to work again, but for the videos that you're doing, which are going to be short, you should just go straight to export. It won't take that long. What makes it take a little longer if you have a lot of effects and stuff on it. Okay, so let's see. Saying it's going to take 14 minutes, probably closer to 10 by the time it's done. Who knows? But this was, I think, like a 40-minute video or so. Okay, that's about it.